All right, let's talk about one of the most important but often overlooked parts of making great software: test documentation. Now, I know it doesn't sound super exciting, but trust me, it's the secret blueprint behind every single app that you love and that works flawlessly.
I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? You're in the middle of doing something important and bam, the app just crashes, or freezes, or just stops working. It's so frustrating, right? That feeling is something we all know way too well.
And yeah, that frustration, that's exactly what software testing is designed to prevent. It's this whole process of hunting down and fixing problems before they ever get to you. But you can't just wander in and start poking around. You need a plan. And that's where the documentation comes into play. So let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. Why bother writing all this stuff down? Well, because good documentation is like the ultimate roadmap. It guides the entire testing effort and makes sure no stone is left unturned.
And here's something you might not realize: testing isn't just a thing you do at the very end. Test documentation is actually happening all the way through the software lifecycle. You're creating the strategy during planning, you're writing the actual tests during development, and then, you're reporting on what you found in the testing phase. It's this continuous loop.
At the top of the pyramid, you have the test plan. Honestly, think of it like an architect's master blueprint for a giant skyscraper. It lays out everything: what we're going to test, how we're going to test it, when it'll happen, and really importantly, what our backup plan is if things go sideways.
Okay, so if the test plan is that detailed blueprint, the test strategy is more like the architect's initial vision. It's where you answer the big high-level questions, like what are we actually trying to achieve here? What kinds of methods are we going to use? Who needs to be on the team to get this done? It basically sets the whole direction.
So let's drill down from that big picture plan to the absolute core building block of all testing, the test case. If our plan is the blueprint for the house, test cases are the individual bricks. Seriously, they're the heart of the entire operation.
So what the heck is a test case? The best way to think about it is like a recipe. It gives you a super specific, step-by-step set of instructions to check if one tiny piece of the software is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. There's no room for guessing, it's just a clear path to follow. And just like any good recipe, every test case has a clear structure. You've got a summary of the goal, any preconditions like, you have to be logged in first, then the exact steps to follow. And here's the most important part: the expected results. What should happen when you do those steps? And finally, you give it a status. Did it work or did it fail? Pass or fail. Simple as that. Now, these test cases, these recipes, they come in two main flavors. You've got your positive test cases, which is where you check that the software does what it's supposed to do with normal, everyday inputs. But then you have negative test cases, and this is where you intentionally try to break it. You throw weird, invalid data at it to see if it handles errors gracefully instead of just, falling apart.
Okay, check this out. Here's a perfect, real-world example from old-school Notepad. If you type .log, in all caps, on the very first line of a new file and then save it, a timestamp gets added automatically every time you open it. So the positive test is simple. Do exactly that and make sure the timestamp appears. But the negative test is just as important. What happens if you put .log on the second line instead? The expected result is that nothing should happen. Both of these tests are absolutely crucial to make sure the feature works correctly. All right, so once you've written dozens, maybe even hundreds or thousands of these little recipes, you can't just have them lying around in a messy pile. You need a system. It's time to organize them into a cookbook. And that cookbook has a name. It's called a test suite. It's really just a collection of test cases that are all related. For instance, you might have a login test suite that has every single recipe for testing the login page. Logging in with the right password, the wrong one, trying the forgot password link. You get the idea.
But sometimes you don't need a super detailed step-by-step recipe. Sometimes you just need a checklist. Think of it as a much more high-level document. It just lists what you need to test, not the nitty-gritty details of how to do it. It's more of a quick guide or a reminder. So when do you use a checklist versus a full-blown test case? Well, it breaks down pretty clearly. Checklists are fantastic for experienced testers who already know the system inside and out. They're quick, they're flexible. But test cases? They are absolutely essential when you need detailed proof, and they're perfect for bringing new team members up to speed, because literally anyone can follow those steps. You really need both in your testing toolkit. So, you've planned everything out, you've run all your tests. What's next? Well, now you've got to report what you found. This last part is all about communication, telling the rest of the team how healthy the software is.
And when one of those test cases fails, that's when you file a bug report. This might be one of the single most important documents in this whole process. It's your way of officially telling the developers, hey, I found a problem, and here's exactly how you can find it and see it for yourself. Look, a vague bug report is useless. It'll just get ignored. But a great bug report, that is pure gold to a developer. The key is to be crystal clear. It needs a good title, the exact steps to make the bug happen again, a description of what you saw, and finally, a clear statement of what was supposed to happen. And finally, at the very end of a testing cycle, you put together a test results report. This isn't about one single bug. This is the 30,000-foot view. It summarizes everything: what we tested, how many tests passed, how many failed, and it gives stakeholders and managers an overall assessment of the software's quality. Okay, so let's wrap this all up. If there's one thing you take away from all of this, what should it be? It's this. Good documentation is not just about creating more paperwork. Not at all. It's about clear communication. It's about making sure everyone's on the same page. It's the shared blueprint that lets a whole team of people work together to build something that's stable, reliable, and actually a pleasure to use. And that's our look at test documentation. So the next time you open an app and everything just works perfectly without a single hiccup, take a second and think about that invisible structure holding it all up: the plans, the cases, and the reports that were the hidden blueprint for that quality. Thanks for tuning in.